All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Saturday, November 23rd. We got a 7-game NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about the other plays, like player props that we like within the game as well. But make sure you keep an eye on the pinned comment for all of my final plays so that I'm actually rolling with myself. Those will be down there directed to the Guy Boston Sports site for that. In terms of how we did yesterday, 3-3 night. It looks okay, but it's actually worse than it looks. Our biggest movement there was both of those same game parlays on the Warriors, and Jonathan Kuminga does not come through. First, I really liked him. Wiggins and the Warriors, I guess, did their job right, but Jonathan Kuminga finishes with 7 points. But a 3-3 night, it's not going to kill us. It's just nothing to be all that excited about there, unfortunately. Hopefully do a little bit better today. What I will say is we now have a crazy streak going for the ride of the day there coming from Jacob. Yesterday he had a 4-leg same game parlay, all of them smacked, and he is on an absolute tear, setting the ride of the day record right now. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it is simple. Just use that hashtag ride of the day or ROTD in the comments. Give me your favorite play. I jump on board with one play each and every day. Give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. I also tweet it out and put it on the Guy Boston Sports site. Jacob has been absolutely crushing the longest ride of the day streak to date. But go ahead and get those hashtag ride of the days in there because they help a lot of people out as well in the comments. But Jacob, looking forward to seeing what you roll today. Again, a reminder to everybody, it's got to be inside -150 to qualify for the ride of the day. But what do you say we jump into today's slate? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get rocking here. We got Utah hosting the Knicks. This is one in which, like, that number doesn't make all that much sense to me. I will say, honestly, the Knicks are starting to look decent right now. If you look at their last 10 games, 6-4, okay. It's nothing too impressive, but if you micro it, right, you look at them in the last 4 games. Okay, well, they're 4-0 in their last 4. Their last 6 games, they're 5-1 in the last 5. So the shorter timeline you look at, this team is rolling, and this is not exactly a Utah team on the same page. They have lost 7 of their last 10. They've lost 4 straight games, and they haven't had the craziest of schedules. I mean, the Knicks have beaten, Brooklyn twice, Washington once. They beat Phoenix. I gave them credit for that one, so I guess you can make that argument. But overall, this Knicks team, I think, is starting to jive, and this is a Utah team that is not all that put together. Now, that being said, Walker Kessler may be coming back. That's a huge injury, thing to monitor for them because their interior defense and even just their interior presence gets a little bit better when he's there. Jordan Clarkson, also game time decision in this one to watch. Deuce McBride, game time decision. Same on the New York side of things. Same thing with what we've seen from injuries for Precious Achiuwa and Mitch Robinson, though those guys are still out. In this spot, give me the Knicks. They should be able to win inside, even with Walker Kessler potentially coming back. They should be able to win inside as well as the perimeter. And, what they don't get credit for is because they've been playing at such a slow pace, like throughout the entire year, they've been bouncing back and forth between a bottom 7, bottom 5 team in terms of pace. But they're actually, in the last 10 games, and actually on the season, the second best offensive efficiency team. That's crazy to look at because their points per game is kind of middle of the pack, right? 15, 16, that range. But in terms of offensive efficiency, second. And then this last 3, like I said, they've been playing better as of late, the number 1 offensive efficient team. So I'm not sleeping on that. Give me the Knicks minus the points. In terms of a total 230, I still do think that this is a team in which, they're not struggling defensively, but that hasn't totally clicked. So I'm going to slightly lean towards the over, but it might be a team total over for the Knicks if I want to look at it like that, instead of kind of taking a peek in the overall game, because Utah still, to me, has not been all that consistent. In fact, from an offensive efficiency standpoint, they're the worst team at home this season. So yeah, give me the Knicks minus points. Then in terms of a total, maybe a Knicks team total over. And then in terms of player props, nothing major that I've looked at so far. Maybe a peek at like Brunson and Towns because there has been some lack thereof of interior defense for Utah. But Walker Kessler could be coming back. So maybe that changes my mind a little bit. Keep an eye on the final plays. If we add anything in there that we don't talk about in the videos, I'll give a little blurb on the post there too, so I can kind of make the point, reasoning, and rationale. All right, next up, we have Orlando taking on Detroit. Both of these teams are without their number one, right? Paolo Banchero has been out for a while now. Cade Cunningham gets hurt in the final quarter there of the last game for Detroit against Charlotte, and he's out now. Thompson also game time decision. Same thing with Wendell Carter Jr. So Wendell Carter Jr. I do think is a big thing to watch, especially with sort of the way Detroit plays and Jalen Duren kind of being a beast down there. Stu coming off the bench. Like there are some things that to factor, but overall this Magic team has been good without both of those guys. Now, Banchero, obviously a huge blow to them, but they've learned to live without. Franz Wagner now has kind of stepped up. We talked about that on the videos we're doing on the main channel in terms of how he just kind of stepped up and he had 37 in a logo game winner last game. Got to give him credit there. And this is a team in which at the end of the day, they're going to play good defense. And I think good defense can make it really hard for a team like Detroit to score without their best player. Cade Cunningham, I know a lot of people realize it, but I don't think a lot of people are going to give it enough weight that he truly is the facilitator. Like everything runs through him. I don't think Jaden Ivey's going to be able to step up and kind of be that facilitator. He's going to move into the point guard role. Then you have Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway, Tobias Harris, and Jalen Duren. That just does not sound like a ball movement S type of lineup, right? So in this spot, it's a huge number for Orlando without their number one guy, Banchero, but they have clearly learned to live without him. So I'm going to look at the favorite here in this spot at home. Orlando minus the 9.5 points. In terms of the total, it's super low, but again, I don't know where the points are going to come from for Detroit, and this is still a very good defense in Orlando. This season, the third most efficient at home, number one in terms of defensive efficiency, and when you look at it from an offensive perspective for Detroit, 23rd team in terms of efficiency. Now, they've been playing with some decent pace, honestly, so if you look at their points per game, it's like, whoa, they're the 12th, or was it 20, I think it's like 19th or something, right? So still kind of low, but the defensive efficiency is about 5 rankings behind it. And I like to look at, offensive efficiency. I like to look at the efficiency because it kind of takes pace out of it in a sense, you know what I mean? Like, per possession, what do you bring to the table? In Detroit, I don't necessarily see them scoring a bunch of points here. Again, 206.5 is super low. Maybe we look at an under or a Detroit team total under, because I do think Orlando's defense is going to lock up for, to make it to kind of put the cherry on top here. Detroit loves to shoot in the paint, right? In the last 10 games here, they're the 8th most frequent shooting team in the league, in the restricted area as well as in the paint. Orlando, this season, number 2 in terms of points allowed in the paint, and then at home, number 1 team. So that kind of spells a recipe for Detroit struggling to score. And again, they're without Cade Cunningham. So give me the Detroit team total under as well. From a player prop perspective, I looked into this one. I don't know if I can really say anything confidently, given the fact that Cade Cunningham's out. I don't know how that team's going to operate. And then on the Orlando side of things, yeah, I guess I would look at, Wagner or Suggs, but these lines are super, super inflated based on, especially, Franz Wagner's in terms of how he's been playing. I don't really see Detroit stepping up defensively. Again, they're missing their best player. So I would look at some Orlando guys, but nothing on the Detroit side because there's going to be a lot of question marks there with no Cunningham in the mix. Next up, we have Milwaukee taking on Charlotte. Milwaukee on a back-to-back here. They did take down Indiana yesterday. I'll say it. Maybe it's worthy of the psycho alert alarm. We'll sound it. I think that this could be a spot where Charlotte keeps it kind of close. I mean, talk about a team that has momentum behind them. LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller making history a couple nights ago. They're looking really good. And if there's one way to attack this Milwaukee team, it's kind of been on the perimeter. So you throw Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball into the mix. Technically speaking, in the last game or two, no one's playing better than those two guys, right? What was it? LaMelo had 35, Brandon Miller had 38 in their last game. So, yeah, I'll give a little credit to Charlotte here. Now, it is a big number. That's why we like Charlotte. If this thing was down to even 5.5 or maybe 6.5, I start to go towards the other side. Like at Milwaukee, we've talked about it multiple times. I do think at some point this Milwaukee team starts to click and get a little bit better. Both them, the Sixers, there's a few teams this season that kind of haven't been off to the best start. But either way, we're still in the early stages, and I still don't know if I fully buy into Milwaukee totally jiving and whatnot. And 8.5 points. Maybe we wait it out, get a better number. Like, that seems like it's a little bit too much. So give me Charlotte in this spot. I also like LaMelo Ball in terms of his PRA. You can even see if we jump into the outlier screen here. This season, he's cashed the over 41.5. Now, it's a huge number. That might be the thing that keeps us off, because even when he has cashed, it's not like he's been crushing it, right? And if you look at the head-to-head, he was right there last time they played back in, what was that, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, but he hit it last season. But overall, I like the spot, just given the fact that, one, Milwaukee not all that great against the point guard, right? You can see the rankings right there. And then his potential says 13 potentialists, 8 rebound chances. He's shooting the ball 23 times per game. There's enough quantity there, and he's kind of on a roll as a quality type player right now that things should line up. But I will admit, 41.5 is a pretty dang high number, right? So keep that in mind. But I will look at LaMelo Ball in terms of a total. It's a tough one, because I think that there could be some points scored here. So I will lean towards the over. But the credence I'll give to anyone that's on the under, anything like that, Charlotte, the eighth slowest team so far this year. Milwaukee has been up and down in terms of defense and offense. I guess I can make the point. And when you think about it, the only reason that this Charlotte team should be able to go, I already mentioned it, is the perimeter scoring. So I guess that is why I lean towards the over, because the one thing I would say that I would think leads to an under or something like that would be if Milwaukee was playing a team that likes to shoot in the paint or is good at scoring in the paint. Charlotte doesn't even try. The 7th fewest shots in the restricted area over the last 10 games here. So yeah, Milwaukee's one defensive thing they're getting better at is in the paint, and Charlotte shouldn't even be trying. You know what I mean? They won't. They like to shoot. They're the second most frequent team shooting the above the break 3 in the last 10 games, and Milwaukee barely stops a nosebleed from 3. So that's why I like the over. But I can see someone being like, the pace might be low. This is a Milwaukee team that stops the paint scoring. I get the point. I just don't see the quantity out of Charlotte to kind of like change the game there. So yeah, give me Charlotte plus the points. Maybe a little crazy. I like the over, as well as a potential look at LaMelo Ball there. I just worry that we're buying high on LaMelo, right? Like, this is not a buy low spot for him. He's been cruising. All right, next up we have Chicago taking on Memphis. Chicago getting 5.5 points here. They are on a back-to-back after playing Atlanta last night, winning 136 to, was it 120, 122, right? I do think that this could be a Memphis spot, especially given the fact that Ja Morant isn't officially ruled out of this one. I think he's still doubtful, so he's probably not playing, but obviously good sign for Memphis to potentially be getting him back here. But overall, I still do think that this is a spot in which Memphis should be able to control the game defensively. Now, you have a fast-paced team in Memphis, a fast-paced team in Chicago, so that's why that total's all the way up there, 243. But if I were to look at this one, it might be getting Chicago here on a back-to-back, getting a decently efficient defense in Memphis. A total of 243 kind of screams under to me in a sense. Maybe a Chicago team total under. So that probably is where I go before looking at Memphis. But if Ja Morant plays, I don't mind the Grizz here minus the 5.5 points, especially given the fact that he would be on a minutes restriction and whatnot if he comes back, but they like to shoot in the paint, right? And Ja Morant likes to shoot in the paint. This is a Bulls team that so far this season, the worst team at stopping paint points. And this is a Memphis team, second highest frequency over the last 10 games at shooting the ball in terms of field goal attempts per game in the paint. So if Ja Morant comes back, it just honestly puts gas in the fire there, right? But overall, they're still going to go out there and do that. So yeah, give me Memphis in this spot. I like the idea of a team total under for Chicago or the full game under. And then in terms of where I'd go with a player prop, I talked about the paint points, right? Well, no, if we don't have Ja Morant, then it's going to be Jaren Jackson Jr. scoring down there now. Do I like his line at 21.5? Not exactly. And you can see he's been spotty to that one throughout the season. But in his last 3 games here, he's looked okay. And you might be like, well, what's going on here, right? He only played 24 minutes. If we look at him last season when he plays over 30 minutes, which I expect him to, or hope he does tonight in a decently close game, he had in 31 of 44 games last year in terms of 30 minutes played, right? Even this season, if we look at the minutes, when he does play, so we have 30 minutes there, 4 of 7 games. So all of a sudden it starts to click up and up. And you can see the Bulls against centers, against power forwards, not doing all that great. So I do think Jaren Jackson, as long as he has the field goal attempts there and has his minutes kind of at a high, which I expect them to today, I do like his spot overall to be able to go out there and get 22 points. This should be a spot where we can target someone scoring down low against the Bulls. And like I mentioned, Jaren Jackson Jr. going to be the guy. He takes 6.4 over the last 10 games here, 6.4 field goal attempts from the paint a game. And you know he's going to take a few threes, right? So if he hits a couple threes, it's like, yeah, just a little cherry on top, but he should have some bread and butter buckets down low. All right, Houston taking on Portland. Yesterday, I did say there's a path to be made to get to Portland, and they end up getting beat pretty handily. So, yeah, that one wasn't the best of looks there. I didn't end up rolling with it myself, but I did come very close. So, I mean, I just admit when things go this type of way, right? And I almost did pull the trigger on it. Glad I didn't, but they lose by, it was 116 to 88. So, tough spot there. This is obviously a Houston team that's kind of rolling in terms of how they've been playing. So I want to give them that credit. They in the last few games here, they've been really good. They're playing at a great pace while maintaining an absolute defensive identity. Like it's kind of special. So and that's not hyperbolic. Like I do think this Houston team is doing some really good things right now. So yeah, in this spot, after what I saw yesterday, I don't think there's any real lane to get to Portland. I will say you should have Simons in this one. He ended up playing, he played like 20 something minutes yesterday, right? DeAndre Ayton may be coming back. So yes, Portland's getting some guys back, but the way these Rockets are playing, and they almost got like nearly 30 points out of Dylan Brooks. I don't think that happens again, but someone else will step up. You know what I mean? Like they only had I want to say like Fred VanVleet didn't have the best of games either from an offensive standpoint. So if those flip, Houston should be able to do what they did yesterday again. Now it's back-to-back. I get it. This is a back-to-back, and it's not the NBA Cup, so maybe Houston sits guys at the end and Portland backdoor covers. But I don't know if I can fully get to Portland after being confident in them yesterday and seeing how they played and then seeing something similar today in terms of a line and whatnot. Yeah, give me Houston. I almost reluctantly do it because that is a big number, and all the stuff that I was confident about yesterday, I think that's still there for Portland, but they let me down yesterday, so I'm not going to roll with it. In terms of the total, it's at 223 right now. I've seen this thing bump around a little bit. I would actually lean towards an over. I don't think that, Houston's playing great offensively and defensively. I know that, but I don't think that Portland's defense showed up like I thought it would in a way of, if you've watched back yesterday's video, I was very high on, Houston's going to try and score in the paint. Portland can stop that. It didn't really come out like that, right? So I do think Portland gets a little bit better offensively today, and Houston kind of still does what they do. So 223.5 seemed a little bit low to me, but if someone's on the under here, I totally get it. You have the second best team in terms of defensive efficiency on the season, and in the last three, Houston is number one. So yeah, there is some defense to be played here, but to me, I think Portland's offense gets a little bit better today, and Houston just kind of still does what they did. So I'll lean towards an over. All right, guys, before we jump into this game, if you made it this far in the video, go ahead and comment 16. You made it 16 minutes in. I do truly, truly appreciate you guys. So comment 16 if you made it this far in the video. Make sure you're subscribed and hitting that like button as well. But let's talk about this when we got San Antonio taking on Golden State. I think the biggest thing to jump to right here is, what do we got for injuries? Well, we still have the same injuries for the Spurs side of things. Some progression. Wembanyama's a game-time decision. That's better than being outright. Devin Vassell, game-time decision. Keldon Johnson, game-time decision. So that's all worth noting. Steph Curry is on the injury report. He's listed as probable. So that's obviously worth monitoring as well. This tells me that everyone is going to be playing, though. The fact that we're looking at a 4.5 spread here, right? And I will say, I get why San Antonio is not favored, or excuse me, slight underdogs, right? Not a big number. This is Golden State on a back-to-back here, in which obviously wasn't the easiest of games for them yesterday. In terms of how they've played, though, in no-rest situations, they've covered in every back-to-back they've had so far this year. So I think that's a big sort of thing to note. If Steph Curry plays, I don't mind the Warriors whatsoever minus 4.5. Now, I know we've leaned a lot of favorites in this video today, but I guess I'm trying to put these in a vacuum, right? I don't want to be like, oh, well, the last game I leaned a favorite, so now I got to be more likely to lean towards a dog. I just want to say it because I know we get comments being like, oh, every favorite's going to win. Well, no, I did lean towards Charlotte. Maybe that's the crazy one. But yeah, I am looking at another favorite here. I don't think the number's big enough, especially if we do see Steph Curry play. Like they should be the better defensive, better offensive team. They play with a faster pace, which hasn't always been what San Antonio's done. Like they've gotten a little bit faster as of late, but overall, we've seen some games this year, right, where San Antonio gets kind of run out of the building in a sense. But if they do slow it down, I would say Golden State also has the half-court firepower offensively and defensively to match that. So seems like a decent spot for me to look at Golden State here, minus the 4.5 points. That total is at 224. I almost want to look at this one and kind of consider a San Antonio team total under or Golden State team total over. So this is one of those games where I do the hand motion, right? It's like I think both these teams, based on how they match up, one could do okay. Like San Antonio, Golden State, I feel like can do decent here and put up a decent amount of points. They are on a back-to-back, so that's a factor. So maybe I just rely on the defense. But I also think San Antonio should struggle to some degree at scoring here. Like they like to shoot from the perimeter, the third most shots from the above the break three over the last 10 games. This is a very good perimeter defense in Golden State. In fact, in the last 10 games against the above the break three, a 30.4% field goal percentage against. Like that's pretty damn good. So maybe we look at a San Antonio team total under. I just wonder what it'll be or what value we can get given the fact that Wembanyama is coming back and whatnot. So that's probably where I'd go, or a Golden State team total over. But because I think Golden State can score points and San Antonio can't, it's hard for me to get an over-under on the overall game total, right? And we don't know if he's playing it, but I think where I would peak for a player prop here, and he has a game time decision, so he might not even play. And we don't have lines out because of that. I don't really mind the idea of a Devin Vassell underlook or 3-point underlook because again, he's going to shoot a lot from the perimeter, and I think Golden State should be able to do fairly well there. He attempts 6 above the break threes per game, and that's really, he's doing some mid-range damage as well, but Golden State should be able to kind of suppress him from above the break. And if he can't score there, he's going to have trouble scoring all night long. Again, though, he might not even play, but I will monitor that line, and that could be a spot in which we kind of target as a player prop. All right, we wrap up with the Lakers taking on Denver. Denver is on a back-to-back here. They get the loss against the Nuggets. Denver gets lost against the Nuggets. Can we talk, Ev? They get the loss against the Mavericks yesterday, 123-120. Lakers coming off of that heartbreaking loss against the Magic a couple nights back when Franz Wagner hits the logo game winner. This is one of those, and there's always a few of these on the slate where I say you look at this and think, okay, either team could kind of pull this off. If Jokic plays, and I expect him to, because it's not like he missed games, and he played yesterday, but not like he missed games because of injuries and whatnot, right? He missed it for personal. Like, if he plays, I don't mind taking a peek here at the Nuggets plus the 4.5 points. These two teams are just very, very similar. If we go through a couple stats here, points per game, Denver 7th in terms of league ranking, 7th, LA 6th, right? Offensive points per game, opponent points per game, 23rd to 24th. Offensive efficiency, 7th to 4th. Defensive efficiency, 18th to 24th. Assist to turnover rate, 1st to 4th. Rebound rate, 12. That should be a big advantage here for Denver, 12 to 23rd. But then it gets right back to very similar. Points in the paint scored per game this season, 12-7. Points in the paint allowed per game, 24th, 28th. Points from 3, 17th, 15th. Points allowed from 3, 13th, 15th. Like, do we hear the small margin there of what we have between these two teams? So, yeah, I do think that this could be a close one, or it should be a close one in all honesty. So, I will look at Denver getting the points, and there we go, an underdog to take a peek at there. That's where I'd go with this one, especially if Jokic plays. Both of these teams like to shoot in the restricted area. Neither team is good at stopping the opponent from scoring in the restricted area, so I'd probably take a peek at a team total over as well. The one thing I will say is that Denver is on a back-to-back, and that could affect them in a sense, but if anything, maybe the Lakers can score some more points there, right? So, yeah, I do like the over. 233 seems a little bit high, especially given the fact that the Lakers have been a fast-paced team and slow-paced team like multiple times this year, depending on the time frame you look at. But like I said, they should both be able to score in the paint, meaning that's going to either have the defenses collapse, then we start getting some open threes, and if the defenses don't collapse, we should just see bucket after bucket, a very efficient offensive game overall. So, yeah, I'll lean towards the over 233. I do like Denver. Maybe I even look at like a Denver team total over or something like that as well. And then no player props as of right now. We really didn't have many player prop looks at the time of recording here, so keep an eye on the Guy Boss Sports site with the final plays. If we do find player props throughout the day, I'll add them in. Like I mentioned, I'll put a little blurb of my reasoning and rationale if we didn't talk about it in the video. But yeah, I mean, oddly enough, there just hasn't been much that jumped out to me in terms of good spots for player props or bad spots in terms of like taking unders and whatnot. So this is what we have as of right now, but hopefully you guys did enjoy, guys. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys in the next one, right? Peace out.